Brian, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. And I just want to kind of start with a big picture question for people who've never heard of it before. What is World Refugee Day?
Well, World Refugee Day is a day that comes around every year. It's the 20th of June, and it basically is an opportunity for the world to look at the situation of refugees and those that help refugees and work with refugees. And this year's theme is basically the theme of one. One family torn apart by war is too many. It looks at the situation of refugees, the trends, what's happening with refugees, the global crises that are happening, and basically it also looks at the organizations that are working to help refugees, such as the United Nations Refugee Agency, which I work for, UNHCR. It also looks at the way refugees have been resettled. For example, the US is the largest country of resettlement, and it takes generally 70,000 refugees every year. But resettlement is just one aspect of the refugee issue, and basically this day, the 20th of June, looks at the situation of refugees worldwide.
And can you tell me a little bit about UNHCR and what you all do?
Well, basically UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, the full name is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. It is an agency that provides assistance to refugees. It provides, initial sort of protection for refugees and, assistance in the refugee camps. But it also looks at longer-term solutions for refugees, resettlement being one of those solutions. But obviously, most visibly you see refugee camps, but there are also millions of urban refugees as well, and refugees who have sought safety in urban situations. Basically, we issue every year as well a trends report, and this global trends report, the latest one that we've issued, which covers up until the end of 2012, shows that globally now there are more than 45.2 million displaced people. Now that includes refugees, but also internally displaced persons, which are people who have fled conflict but remain within the country's borders. Obviously the media spotlight at the moment is on Syria, but there are many other situations as well. For example, the long-running situation in Afghanistan, where I've recently returned from after more than 2.5 years working for the United Nations. Afghanistan is still the world's largest producer of refugees, for example, but certainly the media spotlight at the moment is on Syria, which is another terrible situation, and there are more than 1.6 million Syrian refugees in the 5 countries that border Syria: Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, Turkey and Egypt. So these are really alarming figures.
What would you say would be probably the most helpful thing that somebody who's maybe watching this video could do to help?
Well, I think one of the things is to find out more information. And as I mentioned, the US currently resettles more refugees than any other country. Resettlement is only a small part of the refugee solution, if you like, or the refugee situation. But for people interested, from the global situation, certainly look at our website, the regional website here in Washington, which is www.unhcrwashington.org, the global website, www.unhcr.org, and then find out what organizations are working in your own communities. I was recently in Orlando, Florida, for a meeting of resettlement agencies here in the US, and I mean, there's so much grassroots things going on, and it's not simply a situation of, refugees are a burden, or some people see them as such. I mean, particularly the US has a wonderful tradition of accepting refugees and seeing how refugees and offering the opportunity for refugees to contribute to their communities. Albert Einstein, for example, was a refugee.